everyone, it's Emily from Life Sew Savory, and today we're going to be finishing the second part of the romper that we started last week. We worked on the bottoms, and so we did the pockets, and today we're going to finish the top and then put the elastic in the waistband. So I'm excited to finish this project and then have one spring summer item ready for my daughter. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple shares here, and then we are going to get started, and it's going to be a good show. So I'm just in my work around the house mode today. So not dressed up at all, but getting projects done. I'm working on enlarging the girls, I think I called it the school's out dress. It's essentially just a woven swing dress, and I'm adding 6 more sizes in the upper range. So now it will go from size 12 months to like 14 or 15, which depending on your chest size isn't that in ages, but you know what I mean. So anyway, I'm excited about that, and we're going to be, I'll be re-releasing that, the new version on Friday. Sorry, I just saw something over there. So that's what I'm working on. I've got it cut out. I think I'm gonna make a version in this double waffle or gauze, and then another version maybe in like a rayon challis or something. So that's what I've been busy working on this morning, and so now I'm taking a break to sew the rest of this romper with you, and I'm super excited about it. So okay, let me just, thanks Phyllis. This is Old Navy sweatshirt, so probably got it on sale, which is probably why I have it. So let's see. We are sewing live today, and again, we're sewing the kids' romper. So that is such a cute pattern. I've given you 2 links in the post. So I have given you the link to this free pattern, and I've also given you the link to last week's live video where we did part 1. So if you didn't see part 1, make sure that you check that out if you want to know how we sewed the shorts. So let's just recap real quickly. Last week we sewed these adorable shorts, and like I said, I made them just a little bit longer than I might normally because I want my daughter to be able to wear these to school if it ever warms up enough to wear shorts to school. And they need to be longer than for school shorts, okay? So, but I made these last year with pretty short shorts, and they were adorable too. So the great thing about this pattern is it's just long pants, and so you can adjust as much as you want the length if you're cutting it to shorts. Now, if I'm making it long pants, usually I put the elastic in the ankle to give a cute finish, but you could also just leave them wide legs. So up to you. So we've got pockets. It's a little bit hard to see because I use the same fabric, but super cute pockets. And this is stretch crepe, which is, so Kathy, so this is stretch crepe from Raspberry Creek Fabrics. So Kathy, this romper comes in larger girl sizes already. It goes up to size 16, which again is not age 16, size 16. So you can check that out. The link is in the free pattern or in the description, and you can see the size chart to see kind of what it goes up to. All right, so I have also cut the front, the back, and 1 sleeve, and 2 sleeves. It was on the floor. All right, so we're going to sew the rest of this project, and I'm excited to get started. So let's head over to the sewing corner right over here and get started. So let me see. We're gonna, I think, start by sewing, I don't have, of course, the instructions in front of me. So I might have to wing it a little bit. We definitely are going to sew, let's sew the shoulder seams. So this is wider shoulders than normal because we put elastic in the neckline, and that will pull it all in. So Tessa, the free pattern is linked in the description of this video. It says link to pattern. If you click on that, it will take you to the post, which gives you the written tutorial, all those instructions, as well as the link to my shop where you can download it. I forgot to mention I've already cut the 2 pieces of elastic that I'm going to use. So according to the elastic chart for the size 6-7 that I'm making, which is the width I'm making, and I lengthened it to a size 8, we need a 24 elastic for the waist, so that's the longer one, and a 20.5 elastic for the neck. That's the shorter one. So I've already cut those 2 pieces of elastic, and we're going to set those to the side. So if you're looking at the neckline and you're thinking that is huge, those shoulders are way too wide for a 6 or 7-year-old or a size 6 or 7. That's because we're going to gather it in here in just a minute. So the first thing that I'm going to do is sew the 2 shoulder seams. Okay, so I'm just matching those up. Again, this is a pattern for at least 2-way knit, which means you at least need stretch side to side, which I have in this stretch crate. And up and down stretch you can have, but it's not necessary. This has a tiny bit. Okay, but you don't want to use something like super non-stretch. I'm trying to, like a flannel or anything that doesn't have stretch. You need stretch for this pattern. Okay, so before we finish the neckline, let's sew on the sleeves. So I'm going to open up one of the shoulder openings here, and this sleeve is cut on the fold. So it's the same on both sides. So I'm going to take the center and match it up here with the shoulder seam that I just sewed. And then I'm going to work my way down towards the underarm. And you will have, of course, with these opposite curves, you have to do a bit of easing in. So sometimes I get a pin in there and then I realize, oh, I really need to take it out and like ease some of the distance between the 2. Okay, and then I'll do the same with the other side. I have the clip in the center. I'll put the clip right there on the underarm, and then we have to ease together these 2 opposite circles. Now you'll know if you've followed me for a while, I don't use pins or hooks very often. I just like to like zip through, but sleeves are one area that I definitely still use my pins or clips because it's just so weird to ease together these 2 totally opposite curved pieces. And of course it looks better when you pin it in and get your full ease of your fabric together. Okay, so instead of just winging this one, I actually am clipping it together to make sure that all the curves and the angles match up. Okay, and then attaching it together. So we'll sew on both sleeves, and then we need to hem, and I think I'm realizing I'm going to have to cut one of the threads off my cover stitch to use it for something else because I wanted that maroon thread. So I might need to rethread one of the needles real quick on the cover stitch, but that is quick project. There's the maroon, got cut off for something else. Okay, so let's sew with the serger these 2 sleeves in, and then we'll take a look at the neckline. Okay, so I'm going to go nice and slow, just like I eased with the clips. Now I'm easing with the sewing. You might have to stretch one of the sides just slightly, and by just slightly I mean like just provide the smallest amount of tension to get all those curves to ease themselves together. But you definitely don't want to stretch out one side or you'll notice. So no real stretching, just easing, shall we say, just easing. Okay, so there is one beautiful sleeve sewn in. Let me bring this just a little bit closer. Okay, so you can see there's one sleeve sewn on the edge there. And then let's do the same thing with the other one. So I'm gonna start here on one edge. All my free patterns include a 1 centimeter or 3/8 inch seam allowance unless otherwise stated. If I don't say it, that is what I use. So that is what I create my patterns to have. I recently, I don't know if you saw my post, was it yesterday? Yeah, Tuesday. I used a McCall's PDF pattern, and I've never used a PDF pattern by one of like the big pattern companies, but this was a free one, a really pretty free dress. So if you're looking for a free woven dress for women, go check out that post. And anyway, it had a 5/8 inch seam allowance. That's more than a 1/2 inch. For me, I was overwhelmed cutting that much fabric off with my serger. And I know it's usually meant for people who don't use sergers and who sew with their regular sewing machines, but I don't know, a huge seam allowance, I don't love it. So I sew with a smaller seam allowance, so take note if you sew with a larger one. Okay, so now we have this big neck, and we need to do something about it. This is stretch crepe, so it's not really gonna fray, but what I am gonna do is just finish the edge of the neckline with a serger to make it cleaner. Okay, so this will just give it a little bit of a cleaner look. And we're gonna go all the way around. And then we can fold over the elastic casing. You would not have to do this step, and if you don't have a serger, you could either skip this step or you could use a zigzag stitch to go around, or you could even, trying to make sure I find the front because we're going to want the front later. Is it like exactly the same? Pretty similar here. Shoot, now I wished I'd marked the front and the back. I think that's the front. It's a little bit lower. I don't know, I didn't mark on the pattern, but I'm gonna put this clip on the front here to be the front of my romper. Okay, so I am now going to come over here to the sewing machine and see if I can move the camera enough. Okay, so you can see here, let's see, there you go. All right, so what we're going to do is we just have 1/4 inch elastic, so it's not super thick, and I have light pink in my bobbin and light pink in my thread, so that's fine to show. And we're going to go around and create a elastic casing for 1/4 inch elastic. So you probably want to fold over about 1/2 inch, maybe not quite. And I'm sewing on that serger seam that I just used to finish this fabric. So sewing on those stitches also creates a more secure seam than if I was just sewing right on the edge of fabric. Because if you're sewing right on the edge of fabric, we need to be careful that it doesn't like pull those stitches out, because this neckline is actually how you put this romper on. It goes up and over from the bottom up with this neck. So you're definitely gonna get some pull on this neckline. So we wanna make sure that this elastic casing is nice and sturdy. And again, because this is knit fabric, if you need to ease in this neckline a little bit to make sure that it all lays flat and you don't have any puckers in your fabric, just go ahead and pull just slightly. Give a little bit of tension if you need to make sure that it is in there. Okay, so now as I get around to the front, we are going to leave a couple inch opening to thread the elastic through. Okay, so now I'm going to re-grab again my neck elastic, which I said is the shorter one. Okay, and grab my elastic bodkin, and we're gonna try and thread it through. I've been needing to replace this bodkin for a while. The little grippy teeth that grip the elastic are kind of losing their grippiness. I think it's just not so teethy anymore. So anyway, hopefully this goes through just fine. So now I'm threading this elastic through the casing. We want to try not to twist the elastic. And a tip that I like to use is when my tail that's sticking out is getting shorter like this, instead of being worried that I'm going to pull it back into the casing, I just pin it to the fabric of the shirt. And then I can go ahead and tug over here, and I don't have to be as worried about what's happening back over on the other side. Again, trying not to twist. I feel like the thinner the elastic, the easier it is to twist it, because it's harder to feel if it's twisted or not. But hopefully this is not twisted. So I'm gonna take my 2 pieces of elastic and I'm gonna overlap them about 1/2 inch. And then I'm gonna go ahead and come back over here to the sewing machine and change to a zigzag stitch. I'm holding on to this real tight so that I hopefully don't twist it. Okay. Line this up. Pull as much as you need out of the fabric. So I have these 2 lined up, and then hopefully I'm just gonna zigzag like this right over top of these. To secure them together. Okay, and now we can go ahead and pull it inside. Oh my goodness, so cute. There's the neckline now. And then what I need to do is go back with my straight stitch and close that opening. We're also going to run just a couple of stitches on the shoulder seam to hopefully prevent twisting. But while I'm here on this back side, let's see, even this out. Okay, on this back side, I'm going to go ahead and put this tag. I guess I need to find the center. My daughter has been complaining more and more lately that she doesn't know how to wear things because there's no tags on things I've made. So I'm trying to be better. I have a whole bunch of tags, trying to be better about using them. So I'm just gonna zigzag either side of this tag on that back of the neckline. And again, this is a tag that would not be comfortable to have against your neck. So I put it on the outside of my garment, which I know people have questions about before, but it also then is advertisement for me to have my tag on the outside. So little branding there. And my daughter doesn't mind. The boys, I'm not sticking tags on their clothes on the outside. They don't necessarily want to advertise for me. Okay, so back to our straight stitch. Pull to even out the elastic, and then on top of that shoulder seam, you're going to stitch in the ditch, so hopefully you can't really see your stitches go forward and backward. And then you've just tacked that down on that shoulder seam, and then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other shoulder seam, and then hopefully that will be enough to keep the elastic from really twisting. So cute. Okay, so now we're back to the next thing. So the next thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hem the sleeves before I sew the side seam. That will make it easier for me, easier for me to hem when they're on a flat, open sleeve like this. I can just hem it over. So what I need to do is rethread this needle that got cut. And we're doing a 2-thread narrow cover stitch to hem this. So I got my 2 threads close together, 2 needles. This can do 3 needles, but we're only doing 2. Okay, and then from there I'm gonna run the, you can either pin it or not pin it. I'm gonna just put a couple clips here. I like to do about a 1/2 inch hem on this sleeve. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and clip that over. That will keep it in place while I'm sewing. Again, this has a little bit of stretch, so if you need to ease anything in while you're sewing, you can do that with just a little bit of tension. This might be a little bit darker color than I would like to hem this with, but it's okay. It's what's on here. Okay, so you can see the stitches on the front, and again, a little dark thread on the back, but there's the looper thread, which finishes the raw edge of the fabric and also provides the back side of this, and it is still stretchy because of the design of the machine. Okay, so now we will take the other sleeve and do the same thing. Put a couple clips, about a 1/2 inch hem to hold it over. And then go ahead and sew it up. The clear presser foot is not the one that is standard on the machine, but it's the one that I love to use because I can see exactly what's going on under it. So I really love that. I can see everything underneath. And then we have hem number 2. Okay, so now we are going to sew up the side seams, and then we'll be putting this romper together. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm gonna start by sewing from the bottom of the sleeve down the side seam on each of the 2 sides. And this should line up pretty easy here. Something like this should be pretty easy for you to blend sizes if you needed. Like I mentioned for my daughter, I am sewing the size 6-7 in width, and then the size 8 in length, and I actually even added just a little bit extra length to the top in addition to the 8 because she's long torsoed, and a romper, if you don't have a long enough romper, it is not comfortable. So we don't want this to be too tight as she's wearing it before we even get started. And hopefully she can wear it all summer. So make sure you give plenty of length. In the top of your romper so that it's comfortable to wear. And you can see here I'm taking my darning needle and I am finishing the loose serger tails after I sew that. If you sew your sleeve hem after, you do not have to do this step, but since I like to sew it first, then I always have to finish that edge there. All right, so let's turn this right side out, see what we've got. We've got a cute little romper top. Isn't that adorable? Those with the shorts we already made. This is perfect. Okay, so you can see here I marked the front, and this gets really important because right now we're going to sew the romper together with right sides touching. So what we want to do is, let me see, I'm going to trim off some of these long threads so they don't get in the way. And I'm going to turn the shirt inside out. It's easier for the shorts to go in the shirt than it is for the shirt to go in the shorts. And then making sure that I have the front touching the front, I am going to line up the side seams. Okay? So we're going to first start with lining up the side seams. And then from there, you're going to put several pins or clips to attach the rest of the front and back together. Hopefully it should line up pretty easily. That front just lined up perfectly, and I can see here the back is also going to line up really well. So they're a similar circumference for the front and the back, which makes it super easy to pin together. Okay, so now we have, this is the shirt that you can see, and then the pants are in there. And so I'm going to go ahead, I got threads all over. I'm going to go ahead and sew up this seam. Now we are sewing all the way around on this to connect the two. And then we'll be creating the elastic casing that we thread the waist elastic through. So a couple more steps, but we're getting close, and this is so cute and easy. But this is the step one of joining them. Okay, so when you get to those top of the pockets, remember they need to be caught in this waist. So make sure that they're laid flat across the fabric and that you're joining the tops of those pockets. See, here's the top. Oops, can you see it? Here's the top of the pocket right here, and I want to make sure that's laid flat as I sew across. And I do have one clip on each pocket because there's extra layers of fabric there. So I want to make sure those are laying nicely. And this is not the casing for the elastic. This is just the joining of the two, so we do not have to leave an opening. We're simply going to sew all the way around. All the way around. All right, so now we can open this up. Take a look. So cute. Whoop. Now, you might be saying, that looks super long. It is super long, but we're not finished yet. We're going to take some of the length out to create the elastic casing. But we've got a really cute romper going here. And this fabric is a little bit wild, but I think it's going to be really cute moving forward. Okay, so let's turn this back inside out because we need to work with this waist a little bit more. All right, we're not finished. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch down from my serger seam. Let's move over here. We're going to be sewing a 1/2 inch down from the serger seam to create the first step of the elastic casing. This is still not the casing, so we are simply creating the fold line. I want to sew on the side where I can see the pockets, I think, just because it's bulkier and I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing. So on your machine, you should have a marking for a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to use a narrow zigzag because we want this to still be a stretchy seam. It's not going to get a lot of stretch. Mostly the elastic will be stretched, but this will get a little bit of stretch. So I'm going to sew all the way around at the 1/2 inch mark. So really we're taking a full inch out of the length of this romper because I'm taking a 1/2 inch from the top and a 1/2 inch from the bottom right now as I'm sewing. Okay, and I'm sewing over the pocket right now, and when you do that, you want to make sure that all those layers are flat. And I've got a line over here for the 1/2 inch that I'm watching and trying to keep the edge of my fabric lined up with that. You don't need a full 1/2 inch because the casing or the elastic is only 1/4 inch. However, I need to be able to fold it up and then have a seam allowance to sew it one more time. So the next time we sew, we're going to be creating the casing, and that time we'll have to make sure we leave an opening for the elastic to be threaded through. So again, this isn't the casing, so we're going to sew all the way around and stop it. Okay, so here you go. So you can see it's still a little bit stretchy. It's a narrow zigzag, and I've sewed it a 1/2 inch down from the top. So then the last step is finally to create the elastic casing. So I like to pin this from the outside so I can make sure there's no puckers. But what I need to do, so I've got it turned right side out and I have my hand inside here. I'm actually going to sew on the right side of this too so I can make sure that it looks nice. So I can feel I'm folding that 1/2 inch seam allowance here up towards the top. Okay, so up towards the top, not the bottoms. And then I'm going to put several pins around to keep this in place while I sew it. So I'm just going to keep moving around this romper waistline, putting a few pins in here. And this is where we'll actually thread the elastic through this casing that we're creating. So we do, I will probably start and finish in the back so that I can leave an opening. Okay, so with this finger, I'm folding the seam allowance, that 1/2 inch seam allowance up towards the top, and then I'm pinning it in place. And this hopefully will allow me to sew around. What I don't want to do is create puckers in the fabric when I'm sewing. I want it to be pretty smooth sewing. Okay, now here's what I need to do. I'm going to actually sew from this side because I need to get into that waistband. I'm going to remove that from my machine so that I can easily slide this in here. And then by feel, I'm going to sew on the edge of that 1/2 inch that I turned up. Okay, you can also use the side of your presser foot as a guide once you get going to line up and sew a straight line. But I'm sewing sort of here, not quite a 1/2 inch from this original waistline, and we're going to use the same narrow zigzag stitch so that this waistline has some stretch if needed. Again, mostly the elastic is going to be doing the stretching, but just in case when this is being pulled over the hips, it needs some extra stretch. I don't want to have my seams be popping. And I'm sewing on the right side of the fabric so that I can ease this all in and prevent any puckers. We want a really nice, smooth waistline. It's gonna be gathered. So, okay, worst case, if you get a pucker or two, don't freak out, don't rip the whole thing out, because actually, when we gather this up with the elastic, you're not really gonna see those imperfections. But the best that you can, you wanna make sure that you're sewing this waistline nice and smooth. And you can do this same waistband elastic technique for any top and bottom that you're joining together. I once made a t-shirt dress for Rose, and when we got done, the waistband looked really terrible. For some reason, it was like stretched out and it didn't have any elastic in it. So what I did is I actually went back and did the same technique where I sewed a 1/2 inch and then I folded that up to create an elastic casing, and then I slid some elastic in there, and then the dress was absolutely adorable. So this can be a fix too for a waistband if you're thinking like, oh, I've ruined it, it looks stretched out, terrible. Don't fear, you might be able to save it with some elastic in the waistband. Okay, so now the opening to thread my elastic is inside. It's probably just easiest if I turn this wrong side out. And I left that opening in the back. So I'm going to take my waist elastic here. And again, we want to thread this through the casing and try not to get any turns or twists. So we go around. And this is just going to cinch that waist up and make it look so cute and really just finish this romper. So hopefully taking it from looking like a sack, which is what it kind of looks like right now, to giving the waist some shape and stability and making it look adorable. I'm just going to go ahead and pin this end of the elastic right there so I don't forget and pull it inside. All right, so I'm coming back out the other side here. Okay, and then again, we have these 2 elastics that are going to overlap about a 1/2 inch. And we're going to sew with the zigzag to secure those ends together. You saw before I had a hard time, so this time I'm getting a little bit smarter. I'm going to pin it, and then I'll sew on either side of my pin. Okay, so then we can pull this inside. It's like all bunched up in the front. Pull this inside and go here on the back, and we want to sew that elastic hole closed. So I'm going to go back to my narrow zigzag. And then we're going to do just like we did on the neckband or the neckline, where we sew on the side seams. Sew the side seams to keep the elastic from twisting. But first, you want your elastic to be as evenly gathered as possible. So, and also I guess you want to make sure that it's not twisted. See if you can feel all the way around that it's not twisted. And then I'm going to try to go under all that fabric to the side seam. And I'm going to go back to my straight stitch to stitch right on that side seam. And then go around to the other side. Get all that fabric out of the way. Okay, so let's take a look at our adorable romper. I think you guys are gonna love this. Probably need some threads clipped, but you guys, look at how cute this is. It's so cute, and the waist has that nice gathered feature. You can make the elastic, of course, tighter or looser, but I made one that my daughter did not like how tight the elastic was. So this one I'm trying to keep it plenty loose. This will sit right above the hips, and if the top is too long, it just bags a little bit. So it's super easy and super cute. It's perfect. So the back is plain. The front has the pockets. Love the pockets. And the gathered neck. So someone was asking, I think last week, how do you put it on? You just open up the neckline and slide inside from the top. So yes, to use the bathroom, you have to take it down all the way to use it, but it's worth it to look so cute. So I will try to get a couple pictures snapped of Rose wearing this later today and maybe post them in my Facebook group. And you can check them out there. So if you're not part of my Facebook group, now is a good plug for you to join. Just search Life Sew Savory Pattern Group on Facebook, and there's a page which you might be watching on right now, and then there's the group. So click to join the group, and then that will allow you to see some of the extras that I post there and other things we have going on. So that's probably where I'll put the picture of this finished romper. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you will check back in on Friday when we add sizes to the school's out dress. It's for woven fabric. It's a super fun and easy sewing pattern, and I hope that you will check it out and have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys later. Bye.